Hi, welcome to the podcast. My name is Rachael Gomez, and I'm your host of the Self-Acceptance Podcast. So on today's episode, we're going to get into a little bit why you don't accept yourself and what you can do about this. So I know that kind of sounds a little bit dramatic or a little bit harsh on, oh, you don't accept yourself, but if you're listening to this, I'm sure a little part of you is curious or maybe feeling some type of way. So let's get into it. As a baseline, let's talk about what self-acceptance is. So self-acceptance is the act of accepting yourself no matter what. So this kind of means that you can make a mistake and you will still hold yourself in high regard. You will still love yourself because you accept yourself for who you are. I think a huge misconception is the difference between self-esteem and self-acceptance. Self-esteem can be more based off of external factors. Having good grades in school might boost your self-esteem, or if you like your appearance, that might also be a boost in self-esteem. Though self-acceptance is pretty constant, it's more so that you are okay with who you are, and just because you don't achieve something, you maybe aren't where you want to be in life, you still accept who you are and you move forward. For example, let's say I love working out. This is actually true because I love working out. I am a big gym girl. I've been going to the gym for years, and it's kind of like a non-negotiable with myself that I'm going to work out or I'm going to get some type of movement in every single day. Though, let's say for whatever reason, I woke up and I'm not really feeling the greatest. I don't want to get my workout in. I'd rather just sleep. Instead of shaming myself and being like, oh, you want to skip your workout? Like, what's wrong with you? Being someone who is accepting of themselves, I would say, okay, I understand you don't want to do your workout, and that's okay. It's okay to be tired. And if you don't want to work out, that's totally fine. You don't have to work out. It doesn't mean you're a bad person or you are unworthy of love because you don't want to work out. And it's really funny because for me, when I was younger, I totally used to be in that mindset of, I don't like myself. What's wrong with me? I skip my workout. Like, I'm terrible. But when you learn how to accept yourself more, all of that negative chatter in your brain, all of that negative self-talk really starts to go away. So let's get into one of the first reasons why you may struggle with accepting yourself. Number one, harsh criticism from your parents. This is a huge one for a lot of us, especially who were raised in households where we were expected to get good grades, always perform at a high level, and basically be exactly who our parents wanted us to be. I see this a lot in people who are people pleasers or former people pleasers. They're so worried about making a mistake that they are hyper vigilant and always on guard on if what they're saying is the wrong thing, if what they're saying is going to upset people. A lot of individuals along the same lines who grew up in narcissistic households with family members who were narcissistic. This is very common. You know, if you've had a parent who gaslights you for your entire childhood, that is definitely going to make someone feel as though they can't be themselves. And if this is your experience, I'm so sorry. You did not deserve this. And this is why I am going to be giving you tools onto how to reverse all of this programming. When we are in these dynamics that have caused us to turn against ourselves and not accept ourselves, and again, this happens at a very young age. If this is parental, if this is caused by parental figures, family members, anyone who was close to you when you were younger, this is all very deeply ingrained in your subconscious. So what happens is children will often internalize shame and guilt and their parents' own stuff. When you're younger, you can't really say, oh, maybe they're wrong, because your parents are basically in control of how you move around the world, kind of like what you think and feel. It's kind of like, oh, my parents said this, so this must be right. We don't really question things when we're younger, and even if we do, it's kind of like we can't question these things because at the end of the day, we're under someone else's control. Now, I really hope when I'm a parent, I know, not even that I hope, because I know I'm not going to create this dynamic because I'm very, very knowledgeable about this, and I would never, ever want my child to feel like I'm controlling them or they're not allowed to have an opinion, though, unfortunately. The reality is past generations, besides Gen Z, that's the generation I'm a part of, the adults did not have as much access to therapy or even psychology. It was more of an emerging field. So this is all very new information. Again, I'm not saying however your parents or anyone treated you was right. It's just the reality of the situation. And there is a common saying that's like, oh, your parents were trying the best with what they had. Forgive them. And I do agree to an extent. I do think like, hey, my parents, they were trying, and that's the best that they knew how to do at the time, though you can still encourage them to do better in your adult life now that you are aware of this. And if you bring it to their attention, then they're also aware of it too. So at that point, when someone's aware of something and they decide not to change, that ultimately is on them. So again, not your fault. I'm going to move into my next point to further elaborate on what I have to say regarding harsh criticism is, again, we start to believe what our parents or caregivers, or even if you were bullied at school, we start to believe other people. And that leads into a lot of toxic shame. You may experience symptoms like constantly doubting yourself. Every single decision you make, you're not sure, is this the right decision? Like, should I do this? And you may ask other people for their opinions on anything. Should I post this picture? Should I wear this? And that is ultimately due to the fact that you may not trust your own opinion. You may not believe yourself and believe what you think is right. And although I don't want to be the person who always says like everything goes back to childhood, though again, I see things through a psychological lens. So I personally do think a lot of it has to do with how your parents raised you or any negative experiences you had in your childhood. And I want to go into how we can start to reverse this, how we can start to rewire our brains to think new thoughts. The most important thing, in my opinion, that you need to do to start moving into a mindset that is based in self-acceptance rather than shame is you need to learn how to validate yourself. So what this looks like is when you like something, you say, okay, I like that. I love that. I did a good job on that if it comes to something that you did. And I kind of want to give an example. So let's say you like this guy or this girl or this person and you tell your friends about it and they're like, oh, ew, like, I don't know about them. Are you sure? And while it's great that our friends are looking out for us, I know that we still have our own feelings towards this person, and you may start to question your own opinion. Oh, do I really like this person? Am I tripping out? Like, maybe they're right. And again, I can see where your friends are coming from. They just want the best for you, even if they see some red flags that maybe you don't see. Though, if you come from a place of self-validation in this moment, you would be like, oh, okay, you guys don't approve of them. You don't want me to be with them. That's totally fine. I'm going to still validate myself and accept the fact that I do have feelings for this person, and it's okay. And that actually is a lot more of a healthier mindset than if you were to start shaming yourself and being like, oh my gosh, I'm such a terrible person for liking someone with so many red flags. That honestly doesn't help you. And I'm going to tell you why. The more that you shame yourself, the more you start to feel guilty, you start to hide things, and it's like you're pushing down your own thoughts and feelings, and that is called suppression. And what we suppress, it eventually will come to the surface. Suppressing things only makes it worse, in my opinion. It doesn't help you to move forward. There's this beautiful quote by one of my favorite psychologists, Carl Rogers, where he says, "First, I accept myself, then I can change." And what he means by this is we must accept our reality, and we must accept whatever is going on for us and what we're thinking, because it starts to allow us to see the truth behind it. If you were to just not accept anything in your life, you were to play victim, then you're just blind to everything and you're not able to fully examine what is in front of you. I want to give an example that's a little bit sensitive, and it has to do with addiction. So someone who is going through addiction and they are lying to themselves, like, I'm not really addicted, telling little white lies. I'm not addicted. I just use this from time to time. And it starts to spiral out of control, and it can become more of a long-term problem. This person who is struggling with substance use, they may be feeling ashamed of themselves, and that's why they're not seeking help. That's why they're in this cycle of denial. And when self-validation comes in, they can accept, hey, I may be struggling with addiction. I am still a good person. I'm still worthy of love. If I go ask for help, if I go to AA, I'm still a good person. I still have value. And when we start to think like this, it really helps us to move forward with our problems instead of hiding them from ourselves and hiding them from the world because we feel so much shame. The other strategy I want to get into on how to accept yourself is journaling. I know it sounds like a broken record. It's a little bit redundant, though. I think when you journal and you write things out, and maybe writing things out isn't your thing, so instead of journaling, what you can do is you can do little voice memos on your phone. You can even do kind of like what I'm doing, and I'm just talking to the camera, making my own little podcast. You can do the same thing. You can videotape yourself, just start talking about whatever's on your mind. My favorite method is talking to a trusted friend, just because that really helps me. And I make sure it's a friend who is very supportive and has validated me. What I would say is just getting all my thoughts out and saying, like, I feel this way. I don't really like this about myself. I messed up. I'm not really doing the best in life right now, school, whatever it is that you're involved in. And you know what? I'm going to reframe all of my negative thoughts that are telling me I'm a bad person, I'm a bad friend, I'm a bad daughter, I'm a bad student. And I'm going to say, hey, I'm a good person, and it's okay that I'm struggling in this area. I'm still killing it in other areas. And I know that although I might not be doing the best right now, I know that I'm still going to come out of this stronger, and I am still going to be successful. That right there is very, very important. And I want to say my last point on how you can accept yourself more. Start putting yourself out there. Start being your fullest self. So a little experiment I started doing is I started posting more of my thoughts and opinions on my Instagram stories, because what I realized is I would always overthink what I was posting. I was always saying things like, this is going to bother other people. Nobody's going to like me if I post this. And I started to just put things out there. I was like, you know what? This is what I like. That's fine. And maybe not everyone likes it. I like it though. And that's what matters to me. I think with social media, it can be really challenging, especially if you're running a business page or you have certain people on your page. I say if you have certain people on your page that you're worried about, block them on the story, hide it, remove them. It's okay. Don't have to feel evil about doing this. because you know it's for your own peace and it's going to help you feel more comfortable. And that is okay. Doing things to make yourself feel better, more comfortable, there is nothing wrong with that. If it means removing someone from your Instagram so you can feel comfortable to post something, that's okay. And eventually, through watching my content, listening to my content, following other creators who are into self-love, self-acceptance, mental health, reading books, doing more of your own little experiments like this, hopefully we get to this place where you can have anyone following you. It doesn't matter, and you post whatever you want, and it's not going to make you feel like you're less than. So I think that's a really good strategy, and I hope you babes start implementing it. And then 2 more that I have that are a little bit extra are, you can always meditate. It really helps you notice your negative thoughts, and oddly enough, once you are more aware of your thoughts, it's going to help you catch your negative thinking more easily because now you're aware, and awareness is the first step. My last little strategy, very, very last tip, is you can always go on YouTube and you can find self-confidence subliminals and start listening to it before bed and even when you're sleeping, and it'll start getting in your brain. It'll start programming in there. I've definitely noticed that it does make a difference. And having a good support system is so key as well to helping you accept yourself. Because if you're around people who love you, can feel that energy, it just empowers you to be more of who you are and take up the space that you're worthy of taking up. I hope this video helped you out, babes. And I would love to chat with you guys more. I will be releasing another episode next week. You can leave us a 5-star rating. You can follow me on Instagram, Rachael, RACHAEL.GOMEZ. All links are going to be in the show notes. Also follow the podcast at Self-Acceptance Podcast on Instagram. Thank you, babies, so much for listening, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Bye.